Hello, welcome back to my channel. I just did a video where I used the red Dream Master palette. Yes, so that is what is on my eyes. We're going to discuss the palettes I'm going to do similar to what I did in my Ghost Face video, where I show you some palettes in my collection that I think are similar. So if you didn't pick these up or you didn't get both of them and you have these other palettes, then that maybe kind of fills the void. Or if you just skipped out on them because you didn't need them, they weren't in the budget. This, if you don't have the stuff that I have, it's not to encourage you to get that stuff. Instead, it's look to see what you have, because you probably have something similar to what I'm going to show you that would fill the void if you didn't pick these up. So this is to encourage, shop my stash. Don't be sad if you missed out on these palettes, that kind of thing. Not to bash Glamelite. I have a couple of Jeffree Star palettes that I'll show because I tend to, I used his cremated palette when I did the Ghost Face. And again, it's not to slam them. It's not a dig at him. None of that. It's just to encourage, because there was so much that came out in October. So if you did not pick these up and you're sad, again, look to see, because you probably have something that will fill the void for one or both. So yeah, if you want to see my recommendations, stick around. If you want to see how I did this eye look, that video will be up, before this one. So this video will be up already when you're watching this. So definitely check that out. And if you want to see a video of me doing a look with just the green palette, let me know. And I think that's all I have. Yeah, let's jump into the video. So let's talk about the red one first. I did do some swatches in that video where I swatched some shades that were similar from the Chucky palette. They're not identical. The blacks, I think, are the same in all the palettes. So aside from that, there are some similarities. Nothing that is exactly the same, but if you're looking at just like the silver, the gunmetal shades, there's a sequence shade that was similar, and there is a metallic red in here, but it's not the same color. You don't necessarily need this if you already bought this, but if you are after the reds, this has a brighter silver. There's red in here. The sequence shade that's in here has more glitter in it. The grays are different. This gunmetal shade, again, had a similar shade in the Chucky, but it wasn't identical. So you don't have to have this if you got this, if you don't care about the reds. You can definitely go on without it. Let's see. Some ColourPop palettes that I have out. Let's see. This one would probably be the closest as far as the reds. Mine looks a little bit different because my Super Shock that was down here completely dried out, and then my glitter expired. So this is from these, I think it's those two. It's this one and one of these two, I think it's this one, are from the Wine and Only palette, the monochromatic ColourPop palette, and that's generally what I use my plastic monochromatic shades for, is I change, personalize. Like this one had expired shadows in it, but this is the All That, and this is one that they do bring back. It's not in stock at the moment, but they do bring it back, and I see this one on Poshmark all the time. So this one would get you in the ballpark if you're after like the rosy shades. So that is a cheap, I don't know if it's cheaper. These are probably the same price point, but if you have this palette, you don't necessarily need this because it's going to get you into the ballpark. Okay. Again, like I said, I'm trying not to encourage you to go out and necessarily buy other things, but kind of show you. I do have the Kylie Nightmare on Elm Street. I do not like the greens that are in this palette. I have not used the reds. They, I'm sure, are fine, but this green I thought was terrible. Everything else was fine. So again, if you have this and you're mainly looking at the reds, you don't necessarily need the other Nightmare on Elm Street palette. I'm going to keep this one because I am a fan of horror movies, and I have a signed picture from the Dream Master Nightmare on Elm Street 4 movie. It's the actress. So I like horror, so I'm going to keep this one even though I don't care for the formula. Another red palette that immediately, because this one has red and gray, if you have the Melt Waiting Room palette from the Beetlejuice collab, you don't need, this is more expensive, but if you happen to pick this up a couple years ago, I don't know that you need the Glamelite. It's got all the colors. So if you have this already, like I said, don't go out and buy this, because this, you have to get it on the secondhand market, and this is still going for a lot. But if you happen to own this and you didn't get this, you don't necessarily need this. Okay, and then I did decide to bring out Blood Sugar, just because there are some shades that I thought were similar. There is not as many reds in here as there are in this, but you do have like the red metallic. Let's see, Dream Warrior from Glamelite. Jeffree Star does have a red metallic in here. What is it called? Blood Sugar. Very, very similar. The actual matte red that's in here is called Cherry Soda. And then Glamelite's is called Midnight. Ooh, that's pigment. Jeffree Star, Glamelite, whilst they're not identical, they're in the ballpark. And there is a burgundy shade. There's two in here. You have Extract. And my palette is a little bit older too. So I think if you got this now, like mine are starting to feel a little dry, but mine is an older palette. So there are the plummy shades, and then the one in Glamelite would be Terror. So yeah, if you bought this brand new, the Jeffree Star shade, so ignore, they were not patchy when I bought a brand new. My palette is his second restock, when the palette like sold out initially when it launched. So to give you an idea, I don't know how long ago that was. A fair amount of time. So there are some similarities. This doesn't, you know, there's a couple of shades. There is a gray in here. Try and dry my hands off. What is this called? Oh, Positive, but it's definitely lighter. I would say this is probably closer to the taupey gray that's in, it's a lighter version of the one in the Chucky palette. But if you have Blood Sugar still, and you're after, you know, it depends again on what shades you're looking at. This is an option. And now my nose is running. I keep my Kleenexes in my shirt, yes, because most of my pants do not have pockets. And then when I do have pockets, I don't think to use the pockets, because again, I don't have, so I keep them in my sports bra. So fun little, my 2-year-old now tries to keep her toys in her shirt because she sees me, like I put my phone in here sometimes, or my Kleenex. So she's like thinking that's where, but obviously she doesn't have the sports bra on, so stuff just falls all the way through. But yeah, anyways, fun little anecdote there. So that is, what did I call this? The Dream Master. It's confusing. I kind of wish she would have just done what, like Kylie's palette, one with all the colors, but I could see, you know, that's going to look a little Christmassy. And then I think because Kylie's palette, and then, you know, there's, you know, the Rudolph palette from ColourPop. There's palettes out there with the red and green. So I get it. And not everybody wants both. You have the option of buying them together or getting them separately. So with greens, this is the Freddy Krueger palette. I like this one. I haven't, have I used this? I know I used the shimmer out of here the other day, but I don't think I've used the mattes. I think I used a little bit of Killer. I just have to look because I have so much. Again, you got a black. I'm going to assume that the black is probably the same black in all the palettes. One would hope, but that's like Jeffree Star's palettes too. I'm pretty sure the black and even ABH, the Noir shade is the same shade in all the palettes. A black is a black is a black. You would hope. There may be some more intensity. I would hope it's the same black. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just put the same black in there. I'm not swatching it, but let's hope. I pulled out Blood Money because I will say again, if you have Blood Money, because Blood Money came out a while ago, it's an older palette. Mine is from initial launch. My husband went on and bought this for me for Christmas that year. But there is definitely some similarities with the mattes and the shimmers. I could probably dupe the entire palette with Blood Money, because while the shimmers are not exactly the same, there are some duochromies, like Money Heist looks like it's going to be pretty close to Killer. And then even as far as mattes, we have Elm Street. And Self-Made. I thought that was Safe Made. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So that one's a little bit lighter. And then you also have Make It Rain from Jeffree's palette. That's a little bit darker. So you got some sages. This is going to be very close to Blood Money. So again, Blood Money's older. If you still have Blood Money, I know some people canceled Jeffree Star and got rid of their palettes. I know some of you still have yours because you have told me so in the comments, and I still use mine. So yes, if you have this and you didn't get this, do not feel like you need to. Absolutely can 100% dupe this palette. Are the shimmers exactly the same? No. Jeffree's, some of them are a little chunkier, like Emerald Estate right here is going to be a chunkier shimmer, so you're going to want a glitter glue. Glamelite's formula has that micro shimmer, so it's a little bit smoother. So, but other than that, Color Story, very, very comparable. And then I also have the Earthy palette from Beauty Bay. And again, this is not an attack at Glamelite, but there is so much that exists as far as eyeshadow palettes. It's really, really hard to come out with a completely unique concept at this point in time because there has been so much that has come out. So this is not to throw shade at them. This is, I know not everybody bought these. So again, don't feel bad, because I feel bad when I can't get palettes, but I'm trying to encourage, like, don't feel bad. Don't put yourself in debt to get these. If you can't afford it, look at what you own. This is just to kind of get you thinking like, oh, I don't have Blood Money, but I have this palette that's green that's also similar. These are just what I have because I do not own every single palette that has ever been made. So again, we're going to look at this. And we have the Earthy from Beauty Bay. I have this one and the berry one. This doesn't have the black. And it doesn't have like the brown like knives in here. But again, if you're after the greens and you already own this, excuse me, I haven't eaten lunch yet. Hopefully you couldn't hear, my stomach can get quite loud. This is going to get you in the ballpark. I think Blood Money is more of a dupe. If I were to swatch every single shade, I think we could probably, like I did with the Cremation palette, get really stinking close. So I will do that at the end and I'll insert some swatches. But yeah, I think if you have this and you're just after the greens and you don't necessarily care about the brown that's in here, I like grungy, kind of swampy, like baby poop brown kind of a shade like this. But other than that, the greens, you could probably get pretty close because there is some sage colors in here, and here. So depends on what colors you're attracted to. And again, there are palettes that look like this also. So I'm going to go ahead and I will swatch Blood Money. I'm not going to swatch all of Blood Money. I'll swatch the Glamelite palette and then I'll put shades that I think are close from the Jeffree Star, just if you're curious. I decided we'll just do it live on camera. So I have Boiler Broom from Glamelite. We're just going to go down and back. So from Jeffree's palette would be Emerald Estate, which I had told you is a little chunkier. And it's a little bit brighter. But again, it's going to get you in the ballpark. Okay, Killer we did. So that is Glamelite. And then Jeffree Star's is going to be Money Heist. Now looking at it in the pan, looks darker which it is a tiny bit, but it's that, I got a shift. It's a dual chrome. Coming for you from Glamelite. Right there. It's going to be tax-free from Jeffree Star. Let's see, we have Haunted. This one, I don't think, maybe, let me see here. Secret Stash, I've never used. Well, that might be. I've never used that from the Jeffree palette. That's pretty close. Yeah, I've never used that palette, that shade. It's a little bit flakier from Jeffree's palette. But again, you're in the same, definitely in the ballpark. So there is that. And then the last shimmer from Glamelite, I don't think there's one that's similar. So I'm going to put that right at the bottom. But as far as the mattes go, I swatched a couple of these earlier. You have Boiler Room from Glamelite. And then from Jeffree's palette, you're going to want to look at Make It Rain and Self-Made. So there's the sage colors. You have Maniac. And then you have, what is this called? Persuasion from Jeffree Star's palette. Knives is going to be kind of in that same vein. So you've got Jeffree shade and then those two. And then, let's see, we have Asylum. I think from his palette would be, Jaded, which is going to be a little bit green, more green. So those are not the same. And then we have a black. So again, if you have this palette and you missed out on this, don't feel bad. So I'm going to clean this off and give you a final thought. And again, this is not to throw shade at Glamelite. This palette's been out for a very long time. And again, there's other palettes that have similar color stories besides these two that I pulled out. So again, you would be hard pressed to do any kind of a palette nowadays and not have it look like something that exists on the market. I think there's just so much. So formulas are different. Again, some of Jeffree Star's shimmers are thicker. It's a thicker shimmer formula, a little chunkier. So I always like to use glitter glue. I do that anyways most of the time. I didn't today, but 98% of the time I use a glitter primer anyway. But yeah, this is just again to encourage people, if you were not able to pick up palettes, to look at what you have. Don't feel like you have to buy everything. I again like horror movies, so a lot of it I bought for the packaging. Did I need the, like, I didn't care so much about the red palette, especially because I own the Waiting Room palette from Melt, and I do not use that palette. I think I've used it 3 times because that gray and red is just not a color story that I reach for. I don't wear red a ton. I'm definitely probably going to get more use out of the green one, but I've also used this one more than I've used Blood Sugar for the same reason. I tend to reach for green over red, and I like pinks. So it's just a color story thing. I bought these more for, I like Glamelite's formula and the packaging because obviously I like horror movies. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Make sure you're subscribed because I am going to do one more of these until she comes out with, I think there's supposed to be a Michael Myers palette this Halloween. I will be buying it even if the color story sucks. I'm not a huge fan of the color story, the Ghostface palette. I'm just not. It's a grayscale palette. And again, I don't reach for that color story often. I own it. I'm not ever going to declutter it, but I will be buying the Michael Myers one if she still decides to do that, regardless of what the color story is. So until that comes out, this will be the last. This one coming up will be the last one, but I do have the Friday the 13th. Again, I like Halloween and Scream are probably my top two, and then it would be Nightmare on Elm Street and then Friday the 13th. I got those in Fright Crates years ago, so that's the only reason I have those. I didn't like seek those out, but I have them. Jason X, and then that's supposed to be, I think, from like the third or fourth one. But anyways, I do have this palette, and I have a couple of palettes that, again, are in the same vein. So we will do one more round of shop my stash to dupe a, not necessarily dupe, but shop my stash to find something similar if you missed out. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, make sure you're subscribed. And again, I am going to do one more Glamelite video, pink eye look. I think I had requests to do all the Glamelite palettes as far as looks, because a lot of people have the Glamelite palettes, and I wanted to do one more Valentine-esque look before Valentine's Day. So we're going to use Strawberry Shortcake. So there will be a video next week of this one. So again, make sure you're subscribed. You won't want to miss out on that. And I may use a little bit of this Warriors Wear pink with it, because I like some of the shimmers in here. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very, very soon. Bye, everybody.